Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of Battlefield Earth. Yes, normally I would say we continue our coverage of the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Israelis and Hamas, the civil wars on the Horn of Africa. But today I'm just simply going to call it Battlefield Earth. So first, before we start, I want to go over to the United States. And specifically, what I want to address is the recent event that took place in Maine. Now, obviously, because of this tragic event, here in the United States, we will observe the Democratic Socialists, the controlling party in the White House, make more attempts to ban and or control firearms in the United States. But very quickly, I want to sidetrack into another topic that here in the United States causes many more fatalities. And that's the use of the automobile. Every year, about 20,000 Americans are killed in a murder-related event through the use of firearms. More than 40,000 Americans are killed every year in automotive accidents, mostly because of speeding and alcohol. Now, I reasonably believe those automotive fatalities are going to go through the roof in the years to come. Many more fatalities. Why do I say that? Well, electric vehicles. Electric vehicles. I'll say it again. Electric vehicles. Now, is the technology cool? Does it reduce emissions? Does it reduce the taxing on the environment? After you own the car for about 5 years, there is a very large environmental expense in mining the resources that you need to put in that car to make it run. So you don't see that return on investment until you've owned that car post year 5. Now, the issue with these electric vehicles, and I know these vehicles very well, is number one, speed. Teslas, Rivians, Lucid, the big 3 automakers, these cars are very fast, much more quicker in terms of acceleration than normal automobiles, combustion engine automobiles. 2 is their weight. They are incredibly heavy cars. Many of the baseline Teslas that are out there are as heavy as modern U.S. pickup trucks or SUVs. They are very dense, compact, fast wrecking machines if used inappropriately. So again, the Democratic Socialists here in the United States never talk about the 40,000 people who are killed because of excessive speed here in the United States. It happens. But for some reason, they like to look at firearms. They want to control firearms. While at the same time, on our horizon with these electric vehicles, These electric vehicles, when you weigh in speed and weight of these vehicles, you're essentially talking about high capacity firearms. You are putting these vehicles in the hands of a lot of irresponsible people that probably shouldn't be driving cars in the first place. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, these individuals, once they get behind the wheel of an EV, with that kind of power and acceleration, fatalities are going to go through the roof. They're going to increase because the speed of the accidents are going to increase, and again, just the speed of the cars. So I wanted to side note on that and have a discussion about that, and feel free to comment in the comments section. Now, we continue to watch the war taking place between the Ukraine and the Russian Federation. Heavy fighting continues in and around Avdiivka as the Russians continue to tighten the circle around Avdiivka. Furthermore, we know now that the Ukrainians have moved units, some of the leading combat units that were involved in the Zaporizhzhia offensive. Specifically, let's go over to this unit here, and we'll go back down south to where they were fighting in Zaporizhzhia. This unit right here, the 47th Mechanized Brigade. This is a NATO-trained unit that has been fighting for some time, and elements of this brigade combat team have been moved to the Avdiivka front. They have moved one of their best trained, best well-equipped combat units to fight the Russians near Avdiivka. Very interesting to see that. That also tells you that the Ukrainian offensive in Zaporizhzhia has failed. Now, we are continuing to see ongoing raiding operations by the Ukrainian military in Kherson Oblast, specifically on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. And we anticipate we will continue to see those raiding operations by the Ukrainians. The Russians see this more as nuisance activity. They don't see it as a threat to the Crimea. They are not redeploying large amounts of forces. They are utilizing artillery and fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters to attack those Ukrainian forces, these small parties of Ukrainian raiders, some of their naval infantry and special operations teams that are operating in this area. Now, again, if we look at Avdiivka, and we go up here, we'll move back up here, the noose is tightening. If you measure the distance between the southern sector and the northern sector, it's about 8 kilometers. The Russians have full fire control, as they call it, which means that they can hit any target in the Avdiivka sector. Supplies moving in, supplies moving out. As the weather continues to worsen, the Russians will be able to focus on these supply convoys, these very limited supply convoys, or roads that the Ukrainians use to get supplies into Avdiivka. These fields are going to become muddy marshes. It will be very difficult for tracked vehicles and tired vehicles to transverse and get into Avdiivka to bring in supplies. And that is the concern for the Ukrainian military. The military units in Avdiivka cannot fight in perpetuity without supplies. And the Russians right now have effectively besieged Avdiivka. And right now I think it's just a matter of time. And then the question is how many forces do the Ukrainians commit to preventing the Russian takeover of Avdiivka? Now we're continuing to watch the situation that is taking place in Israel between Hamas and the Israelis. Now I wanted to ask a question, and please feel free to comment in the comment section in terms of what your opinion is on this. I want to do a hypothetical, and I think this is an important question to ask. Look, we know the Israeli military is an incredibly powerful force. And we know that the Israeli military, if they wanted to, be it through the use of nuclear weapons or simply bombing into oblivion, could destroy Gaza entirely. Could wipe it off the face of the planet. They could wipe out every Palestinian settlement in the West Bank. They have that ability. They have that capability. Now, this hypothetical that I would like to pose to you in terms of question, hypothetically, if the Palestinians, if Hamas had the same military capability as Israel, if Hamas and the Gaza Strip had the same military capacity as Israel, and the Israelis had essentially the same military capacity as Hamas, what would happen? Most people, including most Palestinians, believe that Hamas would wipe Israel off the face of the planet. They would remove all Jews from this area of the earth, Israel. If Hamas had that capability. So the question is, now we know that Israel does have that capability. Why have not the Israelis completely eliminated Hamas? Think about that for a second. Find your moral compass. And think about it. And I try to look at both sides of this conflict. And it is a conflict in which, at this point, I don't believe neither party is going to resolve. It is going to be possibly a catalyst for even greater conflicts for the earth as this conflict continues. It is not a solvable issue. It's just not. It is going to be solved through destructive military means. And I've accepted that. But I got to tell you, as we watch this unfold, as we watch what is happening between the Ukrainians and the Russians, as we watch what is happening between the Israelis and the Arab world, and the Persian world as well, with the Shiites in Iran, are we on the precipice of global war? I have never seen in my lifetime, the earth in such a chaotic disarray. And what's interesting for me is, as the Democratic Socialist Party here in the United States was in a upheaval over Donald Trump coming to power, They often cited that Donald Trump would take the world into the abyss. You would see unrelenting wars of destruction, to include the United States. You know, what's funny and what's ironic is you did not see that under the President Trump administration. Only once the Democratic Socialist obtained power did we see the world spiral into chaotic, destructive events. And again, it's really come to the point for me that when the Democratic Socialists here in the United States make claims about other political parties and other leaders of political parties that are in opposition to them, opposition to the unitary one-party state of the Democratic Socialist Party, that what they blame, meaning the Democrats, blame on their adversaries in terms of future-facing events. That is exactly what the Democratic Socialists are going to do. So if they say the other party is going to bring about cataclysms and the apocalypse, that is exactly what they are going to do. And that's what we're seeing. Never in my lifetime have we seen such a chaotic, destructive world brought about by incompetence. We have utter incompetence in the White House. Utter incompetence. And that's where we sit. And you should be concerned. You should be very, very concerned as a reasonable person. Because the party in power right now in the United States is irrational, unreasonable, and I believe clinically insane. Especially when we get into the world of cross-dressing and transvestites being put in positions of power here in the United States. So that's it for today. We will continue to monitor and report what is happening on the ground. We will continue to provide commentary. We are watching things very closely in the Middle East. Things are going to get worse. The wars are going to increase. They are not going to stop. The economic woes in the United States are going to increase. And then as the election season approaches and finally occurs, I suspect we are going to be plunged into the abyss here in the United States. I hope I'm wrong. Have a good day.